Hi there, and I apologize for the darkness of this and the lousy video, but my lamp from over there just kind of like died, the light bulb, and then it got hot, so I disconnected the whole thing because I was afraid it would catch fire, and I haven't figured out how to get up a better perspective than what I've got already here. So, but then again, I don't think you're paying attention to what I look like as much as you're listening to what I said. At least I hope you're listening to what I say and not the way I look, because there's nothing to gain by looking at me, I don't think. Anyway, um, I've got a quote today. So I guess maybe I should back up and say, just so close your eyes and just listen instead of watching. That's the only advice I've gotten. If anybody's got suggestions, I'll just have to go find a different lamp and figure out what I'm going to do for here. But that's beside the point. Okay, what I've got is a quote from Robin Sharma. At first, I didn't realize there was any name to it until I did some more looking and figured out that I'm not sure whether it's a male or female Robin Sharma, but it's a quote from that I like. Never be a prisoner of your past. It was just a lesson, not a life sentence. I think that many people, or at least that's what my experience has been anyway, to lead me to believe that many people, when they do something in the past that they don't like, or even if they did like, but somewhere along the line they take a look at it as if that somehow engraved things in stone, that you maybe were not a good student once, so therefore for the rest of your life you're condemned to be a bad student, or that maybe you were not funny once and so you're condemned to be never funny, or maybe you were funny once and now you don't want to be, or some such thing like that. Something happened and you got, at least in your head, or perhaps maybe from other people too, a reputation that you may not like and you wish you could change. The thing about it is that what I've seen from most people is that they seem to think that just because it happened once, they're stuck with it. That's going to be the way it is. And that's not true. We forget that the past is the past. What you did when you were 15 has absolutely nothing to do with what you're doing now. That's even if you were 15 last week and you're now 16. You're still not the same person. You had a lesson, you tried and did something, or maybe you tried and didn't do something, whatever the case may be. You got an outcome. You had an opportunity to take a look at things and figure out what you could or could not have done differently. And you've gone on and moved on from that. Maybe moved on from that. You may still be reliving that as if that's, again, set in concrete. And this is not true. Folks, if it were set in concrete, none of us would ever change. We'd be doing the same thing we were doing at the age of 10. And we wouldn't be getting terribly far at that, would we now? You look at other people, and I mean, if you've got children, look at your children and stop and recognize how quickly they've changed, even over a summer or just over a few months. What makes you think that you're going to stay the same as well? Or not stay the same as well, that was not what I meant. What makes you think that you're going to stay the same? You change. You have different experiences. Things happen. You get different inputs. You get different ideas. You see different things. You learn lots of lessons. We learn lots of lessons every single day. So what makes you think that because you did something a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that you're still the same person and you're supposed to react the same way? I don't know how you could do that, actually. It would be interesting to get you in a conversation with me and try and convince me that you are the same person. You have changed. It's entirely possible for you to take a look at yourself, go off into a corner and stop and say, well, look, this is what happened. This is what I did. This is what I didn't do, whatever the situation is. And stop to think about how many things you've learned since that incident happened. Maybe you had a lousy experience. Maybe you got into some kind of a situation that you wished you hadn't, and it's hurt you. I understand that. But you still can come and move on from that specific situation. Whatever happened to you, you've learned some things from that. You're stronger because of that. I know some of you are going to say, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. Because you're still here, you're thinking about it, you've learned some things from that particular point in time. So if you can start looking at the things that, as it says, it was a lesson, not a life sentence. You were not condemned to stay in jail reliving that particular episode for the rest of your life. Now, granted, you can't completely just, take it out of your head and get rid of it, but you can still look at it from a different perspective. Start looking at it and think, what are the things I could have learned? What could I have done differently? How could I change my mind? Or how could I change my behaviors? Or how could I change something if something similar to this happens again? What can I do differently? Take a look at it as a lesson and figure out what can I do differently so that you think about it. You can also, in a sense, change the perspective. Okay, so I was, let's just say 22, whatever age. I was 22 at that particular point in time. I'm no longer 22. I'm 30 or 40 or whatever it is. What do I know now that I didn't know then? I'm not 22. I'm definitely not the same person. So I wouldn't respond the same way necessarily. Even if you respond with some of the same behaviors, you cannot be the same person you were when you were 22 and you did that, because you're going at it in a slightly different perspective. Because if nothing else, in the back of your head, you're thinking about what you did before when you were 22. And therein lies the problem. Because if you're thinking about what you did when you were 22, you're more likely trying to repeat those behaviors because you see it as a life sentence, as if you're repeating the movie, kind of like Groundhog Day or doing it all over, deja vu all over again. You can take a look at it, figure out what your actions were, figure out how you can change it and do something different. You can take a look at how you can start looking at it something different. Talk to somebody else and say, what might you have done? What have you learned? Get the sense that you are a different person. And talk to yourself about that, and ask yourself questions and make small incremental changes in your belief, and then get to the point that it will not become a life sentence for you, that you'll realize that yes, it happened. Maybe you didn't like it. Maybe you did like it and you'd like to repeat it. But if that's the case, then what did you learn from it that gets you to repeat it again? In other words, you had a lesson. What did you learn from it? How can this benefit you going forward? I hope this makes sense. And I hope you're taking a look at it from that particular standpoint, because you're not condemned to repeat everything you've done all over again, or everything you've done in the past. You can do it again and do something different. So please say something to me and let me know what you think about it. Argue with me if you want. I'd love to get into a conversation with some of you if you think that I'm, full of hot air, and see what happens. But you do have that opportunity to make a change. You can change. It is possible. And I hope to see that you can start thinking about that. So with that in mind, if you found this helpful and you want to, too bad I can't say it's like a podcast and says, share it with somebody so that they can hear it. Maybe I should just turn the light off and nobody can see me anyway and just listen, make it like a podcast, but that's beside the point. If you found it helpful, share it with somebody and let me know, that you found it helpful. And I don't think I've got anything on the blog that's about this, but I'll have to take a look at it. And if I do, I'll share it with you later. So until next week, I hope you have a good week. Take care. And again, if anybody got any suggestions for lighting, let me know. We'll see you around. Bye.